Hi, I'm Charlotte, Product Marketing Manager at Starhive. In this video, you will learn how to use Starhive to create no-code apps for your organization that help boost productivity for you and your team. The word app has many definitions. When we say app at Starhive, we mean something that has data, some logic applied to that data, and one or more user interfaces to interact with that data. Now let's see how this works in Starhive and build a simple task management app from scratch. Let's imagine we're a solar cell company and we want to track the work we need to do on customer sites. First, we need to add our data. You do that in spaces. A space is a logical grouping of data or objects, as we call them in Starhive. Let's create a space for task management. Next, we need to define the types of data objects we want to store. In this case, we'll create two types, one for our tasks and one for our customers. Next, we want to help define the types that we've just created by adding attributes. So customers might have a contact name, a contact phone number, and maybe the location or address of the customer. The task type is going to have different attributes. So it might have a description that tells us what the task is, a due date to say when the task is due, an assignee, which can be a Starhive user, and then also maybe a customer. And in this case, we're going to use an object reference and link to the customer type we created. If I click the three dots, I get more configuration settings for this attribute. So for example, I might decide that a task could be relevant to multiple customers, so I can change the maximum number of customers I can add. And I could also put the minimum as 1 and make the attribute mandatory. Now, if I go back, I can actually start putting data into my object types. So let's start with customer, and we can create a customer object manually. And I'll type in the information for the attributes we just created. Now this is manual, but I could also import via CSV or use an API, and we're increasing the number of data connections we have very shortly. I will also do the same for a task, and here I'm actually going to select the customer that I just created and link my task to the customer. If I open up the task object, we can see that we actually get this relationship map where we can visually see the link we just created. Next comes adding logic to our data. We have both workflows and automations in Starhive that we can use to define rules about how our apps work. In this video, we will explore workflows only, but you can learn more about automations in our dedicated automations video. We want to build a workflow for our tasks, which defines the states and transitions a task goes through. So let's build a simple task workflow. First, we need to add our states, and let's choose to do, in progress, completed, and cancelled. Next, we want to define the transitions between the states, starting with the first state, which will be to do. Then we can build each possible transition. So to do can go into in progress. Then in progress can go into completed, or in progress can go into cancelled. Completed and cancelled are end states, so they do not need a transition. The final thing to do is then apply this workflow to our tasks. So I can go back to the task object type, click manage, and add a new attribute of attribute type workflow. There I'll select the task workflow, add it, and now if I open up my task again, I can select a task status and move through the different states. Finally, we want to build a user interface for our task management app so people can add tasks and work on them. Here you have multiple choices. You can use the Starhive interface builder. You can use the native Starhive UI and actually work in the data. Or you can create an external user interface in code or any other tool and then connect it to Starhive using our API. Or alternatively, you can use a mix of all three, whatever you need for your app. In this example, we're going to use a mix of the native Starhive user interface and the interface builder. First, let's build a new view for us to better track our tasks in the task management state. So I can add a new view. In this case, I'm going to choose board view. And then I get to see all my states in a board view, and I can drag and drop tasks to other states. But maybe we also want a way for our colleagues to add tasks to our board. For that, we can use the interface builder and create a form. So we go over to interfaces and we create a new interface and give it a sensible name. Next, we want to add a widget, and in this case, we choose form. The first thing to do is to set up the button that people will see on the interface to open the form. So here we give them a little bit of a description on what they're going to do when they click that button. And we can customize it, we can change the color, and we also can configure an icon as well. Next, we want to go to the form tab and create the form. So we select which object type, in this case tasks, and it imports all the required attributes for that type of object. We can rename the attributes in the form. So for example, instead of name, we say task name. We can also add optional attributes, so description. If we want to set default values for some of these attributes, we can. For example, maybe assignee should always be the project manager to begin with, so they can distribute the tasks. So here we set the default value, but we maybe don't want people to be able to change it when they look at the form, so we can actually hide it from the form. If we save this, then we get the button and we can rearrange this how we like. Now, in reality, we probably wouldn't have an interface this empty. This is just an example. Maybe we'd add some extra forms to do other things, or add some charts and graphs to show the status of the tasks that we have open, whatever we like. The last thing to do is to change the restrictions on this interface. So we can go up here and make the interface open so anyone in Starhive can access it. Then we click done. And now we can test it. So if I click the button, the form pops up and we can fill in the data. When the form is submitted, we can see that another task has been created. And there you have it, a simple introduction to adding data, creating logical rules, and building ways to interact with your data. With these 3 steps, you can build business apps to do pretty much anything you need to make you more productive at work. The next step is to learn more about each of the capabilities of Starhive in more detail to get even more power from the platform, and we have a whole suite of videos for you to do that.